Hello again, everybody. Welcome to WrestleTalk. John Scott here, and I'm pleased to say we are joined by Turnbuckle TV's own Rich, the owner of Turnbuckle TV. Finally, great to have you on, and what a time to have you on, although we're in these odd and very stressful circumstances going on in the world. This is, of course, WrestleMania weekend, and as I keep harping on to all my listeners and people that might not be wrestling fanatics like me, wrestling is about the only thing that's probably still going on. And here we are at arguably WWE's biggest show of the year. And of course, this pandemic, the coronavirus has broke out, but wrestling and WWE is still very much going on. And of course, for you and Turnbuckle TV, it's another option for people to go and now, watch all their live wrestling, some wrestling that's been recorded in the past, and get their fix of the UK scene, I guess. And we've just had that announcement from yourselves as well, with yourselves and WrestleTalk now teaming up. So how are you doing, first of all, Rich, and obviously in these very precarious times?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on. It's certainly a surreal time, isn't it, for everybody? I think it's important that we do sort of keep our attention turned to wrestling, at least as sort of that bit of escape still.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, just tell us a little bit about, obviously, that my listeners know, very much under your umbrella here at WrestleLine. You're the boss. That's what I'm going to call you. The boss man is on this show today. But let's just talk about how Turnbuckle TV first started. Like, how did you come up with the idea, first and foremost, to get Turnbuckle TV, going in the first place? Was it like had it always been something that you'd thought about, or did stuff just come along where you thought this makes sense now? Like, how did that process come about?
I think I've been a wrestling fan for years and years, so that passion's always been there, and like any good dad, I wanted to encourage my kids to get into it, starting with the eldest. So we used to go to a few shows, local shows primarily, Full Force Wrestling, who are on the site, being that sort of the local promotion to us. And after starting to go to a few shows with him, seeing how much he enjoyed it, I began to realise how you can see some really amazing stuff by going to your local promotions. There might be sort of 100, 150 people there, but beyond that 150 people, there might be there's no way of potentially seeing this action unless there's maybe somebody filming it on their camera phone for YouTube or what have you. So it sort of stemmed the idea and the passion and my lad wanting to be able to see all the Full Force shows, not just the ones that he could go to, was where sort of the idea spawned, if you like. And then it just went on it was a conversation I had with somebody, and it was very much the question being put to him, is this possible? Is a Netflix, if you like, of wrestling idea, is that something that could be created? And that was pretty much it. It stemmed from there, and sort of not nigh on 18 months later, we're starting a new partnership with WrestleTalk, and hopefully looking to take things on to the next level.
So basically what we're saying is we should thank your son. That's what we're saying. That's where the passions come from. There you go.
Absolutely. And a large itch of getting into the wrestling business myself, but never really having the opportunity or necessarily going down the route of training to do it myself. So it's kind of just led to having this real need to do something. And let's just say that I don't have that need anymore.
Absolutely. Now, let's talk about like some of the content, because this is like massively important to Turnbuckle TV. Like, you've got a load of promotions now that are in association with you guys. Just give us some of the names, like for people that might not have gone on, to Turnbuckle TV so far, but give us a flavour of what you can get there, like what some of the content is.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got the largest selection of UK promotions on any on-demand site. You won't find more variety of UK wrestling anywhere else in the world. We've got some established promotions, some that more recognizable, like for example TNT Extreme Wrestling, who also offer the TNT Ignition element to their brand as well. So they've got some amazing stuff on there. We've then just got a big variety of all sorts of, from family, sort of more family based stuff. So as I've already mentioned, Full Force Wrestling being one. We have a fair amount sort of West Mids based, because that's where, if you like, it started for us, because that's where I'm based. So Full Force Wrestling in Hinckley, MBWA. There's a load sort of in and around that area, and I don't want to do anybody an injustice by not mentioning them, but it's always hard to try and remember them all.
Sure.
And then we've got some that have begun had their first show since Turnbuckle began. Some shows, for example, DNA Wrestling, or I know you've been along to a few times. They had their first show since, so we've been with them since they've begun, since their infancy, really, and have started to sort of build up, and they've put on obviously some fantastic shows. So yeah, all in all, I mean, we've got sort of 30, must be close to 40 promotions. It will be well over 40 by the time everything sort of said and done, with regards to announcements for WrestleTalk and stuff as well. So yeah, loads and loads of content on there being added all the time.
Absolutely. And of course, DNA Wrestling, like you just mentioned, I've been there a few times. Fantastic new promotion. And these promotions, like I was talking about this the other day on my podcast, they are popping up like everywhere now. I think like I've never seen as much variety as we're getting. Certainly when I was on the road, I had to like pretty much pick like which one I was going to go to at what weekend, because it was so busy at that time. Like every weekend was just filled, and I've just never seen it as overpopulated as it is now, and run so professional at this time. But also with Turnbuckle TV, like I know something that you guys were itching to get out there was that heavyweight, the title, the belt.
Yes.
Where is that standing at the moment? Like obviously with this happening, a little bit of a delay, but where's there've been some announcements, am I right in thinking, maybe on who might be participating, or is that still in the works?
That's still in the works, and a little bit up in the air.
Right.
What I can say is that it will be debuting at DNA, on the subject of DNA. So once DNA hopefully have got their doors back open, there is a show that is penciled in currently for the 16th of May, I believe. That's a show in which we're going to work with DNA to co-promote one. Like with everything, unfortunately, that's up in the air at the moment. So we're sort of waiting to see whether that event can still take place on that date. But ideally that would be the case. But failing that, very soon it will be DNA that will first be making its appearance, and from there it can be wrestled on any promotion that's associated with us.
Sure.
So it could be going all over the place.
Now, I've got to ask this. Obviously, you mentioned you're a fan. Who were some of the guys that you was growing up on that you quite enjoyed? Like, who were the main standout performers when you was growing up as a fan?
The obvious, I suppose, the obvious WCW, WWF ones. So Sting, Surfer Sting, as they like to call him, but just Sting for me. He was the first. He was the idol that I had as a kid, a young blonde-haired kid that just looked up to him. Never had the rat's tail though that he used to have, but that was more down to, I think, my parents' preference really. But yeah, so it was Sting for me. That was who I sort of got into for a very young age. Then when I discovered WWF, then it was Hulk Hogan, and that was that for a number of years until obviously the Attitude Era. So yeah, Sting and Hogan for me.
Absolutely. So not bad. I used to have like collect a lot of the WCW figures, but they never used to move, and that was always a nightmare for me. So the Sting one I had, his arms were just up in the air, and that was it. That's all you got there. But it looked better than the WWF ones at the time, but you just couldn't move the arms. It used to really
You
bug
couldn't
me
break
out.
them though, could you? That was the
True,
big thing for me.
true.
You know, like especially as kids, it's nothing worse than with the old Hasbro figures. Like you'd be having an intense match, and then their arm, you'd hear a snap, and then their arm, that's it. The movement's
Yeah,
gone.
yeah,
Or
gone.
it's just hanging loose. Whereas with the WCW ones, I remember there was one time, I don't know how long in the timeline these had been available or been out or whatever, but there used to be a pound shop that used to be next to the cinema in my old town, and I went in there one day with my mum, and they had pretty much the whole set of the WCW Galoob figures there,
Wow.
like for £1 each.
Jeez.
And so as you can imagine, like
Mhm.
I wish I got doubles or triples of them now based on
Yeah.
what ones are worth in their packaging, but as a kid, like just that was like Christmas for me.
Mhm.
So WCW is very, very prominent in my upbringing for sure.
Now, obviously, Turnbuckle TV does have a whole pool of talent on there, and I keep encouraging people to check it out because it's one of those things like you're never going to see, many of these wrestlers at this stage of their careers. These people, many of them, I'm pretty sure they're talented enough. A lot of young performers are going to go on to bigger and better things. But for a change, this gives us a little bit of a way in, a little bit sort of behind the curtain at seeing somebody's progress. Now, obviously, going to put you on the spot a little bit here, and this might be difficult for you, but who are some of the performers that you think that, you've come across or you've seen on Turnbuckle TV, you've had the content to, some standout performers on there that people might not, in the UK might not know them too much about them. The exposure might be a little bit limited.
The pool of talent that's out there at the moment that, like you say, is just not being seen because, let's be honest, it's kind of like graduation, isn't it? The last big pool of talent have graduated and they're now in the limelight. Mm-hmm. But for many years they were sort of in the background, just like just like the current selection are now. There's a long list of talent. There's the ones that are starting to show up a bit more. Chantel Jordan.
Right.
She hasn't even done her GCSEs yet, and she is knocking the ball out the park. From what I've seen.
Yeah.
Corey McRae, I know, again, DNA, if you want to see any of his matches, he's quite prominent on a lot of the DNA cards, matches with David Starr and the likes, Jodie Fleisch. So yeah, he's definitely somebody that's you're going to be seeing a fair bit more of him. And it's the same with I've said it to some of the guys that are over there, so the SOS guys, and it's almost like a class of 92 with the sort of the Man United sort of punt there. But you've got your Harry Mance, your Corey McRae, you've got sort of just such a selection there. Tate Mayfair's is in there, and it was like a pool of guys there that will all do really well. They're only limited by pretty much, I'd say, how much they want to put themselves out there, really. So those guys, Aaron Warnes as well. There's Nick Payne. There's just a few in that group. And then if you want to sort of go further, more towards sort of Liverpool sort of area, two that are absolutely knocking it out the park. Cameron Solas, Scott Oberman. If you haven't checked out, it's on our YouTube at the moment. We've got like a program that documents. So those two had a trilogy, and all three of those trilogy matches are on YouTube. The first two are on our YouTube, and the third is on Wrestle Island's YouTube. Just watch those and just see where these guys are going, because it's they're going places. So yeah, I could throw names out all day long, put it that way.
Yeah. Now tell us, I mean, like you, obviously, in charge of Turnbuckle TV, has it been slightly difficult with certain promotions and promoters in trying to convince them what your product was at the beginning, and over time, has that got easier for you, or has that still always been a little bit of a struggle to begin with when you first come up with Turnbuckle TV?
I think when we first came up with Turnbuckle TV, it was always going to be difficult to try to sort of convince, being this brand new company, this brand new thing, platform, however you want to phrase it.
Sure.
It was always going to be difficult to